I'm like, no,
Nope.
those aren't going to be the things.
And I saw you, sneaky girl. Hit record.
I did. Usually because you're like, "Kapow!" You're like, "Are we on? Are we on?" No, we're not. No, we're on. Yes, we are. Ah! Like, welcome to Embracing the Wild. I'm Abby Pagoon.
And this is Audra Watley.
This is the Audra Watley.
It is. It is
It
the Audra.
is. Okay, so I saw this really weird thing, and I have these new feeds that are coming up, and I don't know why, but this one just freaking cracks me up beyond all heaven. Not only because it's like, okay, we've done this summer. Some of us have been really good over the summer. Some of us have indulged a little too much. And then I'm totally getting back into like, oh, school is back. Routines are coming. Let's try and wake ourselves up. And then your brain goes, and you're like, so I don't know why, but this guy keeps popping up on my food and the weirdest sensations. And I think yes, I love him. Let's watch.
Yes.
Tastes like steak, huh?
Apparently. But like this could save me from potatoes.
Mm. Yes.
I love his face.
콜라맛 난다. Yes.
It is.
Potatoes, chips, and tomatoes. A lime banana or lemon banana.
Lemon and banana make a pineapple.
Mm. Yes.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't even know what to think of that.
Okay, so my first thought was, oh my gosh, this could help with so many indulgence problems, right? Like cravings, especially when you know that my arch nemesis is potatoes, right? So then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if an apple and salt could make a potato, yay! And then all of a sudden it kind of dawned on me on how many different flavors can be combined with other foods that we already have that are all natural, and we technically don't need any of the processed shit in the first place to actually eat like in our indulgences.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where my brain with it. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know why this makes me so happy, but it does.
Lemon is a really interesting one because I've left lemon out of something and been like, this doesn't taste right. It doesn't even taste good.
Right.
And then be like, oh, wait, I left the squeeze of lemon out. You put the squeeze of lemon in and you're like, it doesn't taste like lemon, but wow, that actually makes the rest of it taste right.
Right. And so then I started, I really want to know, it's like I want to know more, like what other combinations of foods can people do? And then, you know, like I know that chefs do things like this already, right? Like chefs, like there are some people out here that have exquisite palates with all the hypersensitives and all the different things. But I think it's really interesting that there are people like that are out there, and I think they need to get back to work with their skills.
Yeah, we need a food science manual.
Yes. And then it kind of goes into this next clip that I really adored that I think is worth
Every
watching.
cell of your body is God. Everything is God. Everything is divine. So when you do good things, when you decide to transcend the negativity and attempt to do something positive for you, for your family, you are the heart of God. You are the eyes of God. When you speak from that place, you are God's voice. And when you make a loaf of bread in this place, in this kitchen, that is a Eucharist. You're blessing people with your work. You're serving the world with your work, with your effort. That is a Eucharist. That is the body of Christ. Every cell of
Thoughts?
All I can see is him playing God and being in front of the computer and be like,
You can't take him out of Evan Almighty, or not Evan Almighty. It was Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty. I mean, like, I was like, it's always interesting to me, like when I see actors that are known for a particular type of role, and then they come across and they do something that is so incredibly different that you're just like, wait, this person can be serious.
Do we continue with conversation, or do we go to the very last one, or save it for later? That's the question.
I was gonna say, does it play right in? Of course it does.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It plays right in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Human body apart when all you can do is use frequency to bring it back to its normal space. Our DNA is made up of what? 5 elements, right? Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and oxygen. They used to think that energy, the body transferred or understood the energy information through electricity. They're finding out it's through frequency. Well, guess what hydrogen sounds like? It's a key of E, and it's the color yellow. Oxygen is a chartreuse, and it's the key of F over F sharp. There's a particular song, a scale in the genome for each and every one of us. Now, when that song is played, when your particular prime resonant frequency is played, guess what happens? Your DNA celebrates and tightens. Everything else gets pushed out. Harmonic wave resequencing. Information used to be thought about as just electrical information passing on. But I got a question for you. Have you ever been at a party with some of your friends you ain't seen in 10 years, but y'all was like 14, you hung out and there's a song that came on and you was like, ugh, and everybody got up and was live at that moment. Now say 10 years later, you got a friend with you. He's a good guy, but he wasn't there when me and my boys formed this. So when that song comes on, our DNA tightens. Harmonic wave resequencing. So yeah, I'm in the process of building the harmonic wave resequencer with another doctor who has been able to successfully cure AIDS and cancer. And it's well underway. You do not need to tear the human body apart when all you can do is use frequency to bring it back to its normal space.
There you go. Another actor doing serious shit that you're like, what the fuck?
Actually, no, honestly, I can't place who he is. I don't have movies of him. It's not that I don't, I mean, like, but it's like I don't have movies of his that stand out in my mind as like that's who he is in character. Where the last one, absolutely. I mean, like
Fair.
Through My Teens,
totally
whatever.
Different, and they're totally different demographics. Now, the thing that I love about Terrence is like I'm pretty sure his name is Terrence. I don't know if it's Terrence Howard or if I'm wrong on that. Rudy and I have been huge fans of him for years, especially since he did a movie about a swim team, and it was he went back to like it's based off of a true story where a swim coach goes back. He's a collegiate swim coach, and he goes back to a hometown, very ghetto, very gangster ridden, like the percentage of children being able to graduate and get to certain levels without joining a gang and like venturing into that world of life. And I believe the movie is called Pride, and I could be wrong on the title, but essentially he creates a swim team, and it creates unification within the community. And Terrence has always been this actor that he's a very versatile actor. He is who I would actually give a very proud stamp that he's a notarized actor, like a Johnny Depp. Like he has so many abilities. And actually, I was a big fan of him, and that led me to Empire, which Empire was fucked up crazy, but it was so good. Like so good. Like I was hooked. And I don't usually go into like gangster world like type of vibration, but it was music, and it was raw, and it was authentic. And the other woman that was in it, I am not going to say her name because I don't want to botch it, but I'm a very huge fan of her. But she was in Hidden Figures. Like if you saw her face, you would know her immediately. And they were just an amazing pair. Putting them in the same scene together was one of the smartest things that director, creator even did. But what was really fascinating to me is when Terrence, I started seeing clips of him talk on frequency levels, scientific levels, like hearing levels. And it really opened me up to, holy crap, this man, he never needed to act in ever in this world. But I'm glad that he did, because he's so multi-talented. So I thought it was a fantastic way, because he had a really great delivery to discuss frequencies and how it affects people. And there's numerous, if you follow him online, he very much is very earthbound, living a life of wholesomeness, discovery of self, connected to earth. And it's been absolutely fascinating to watch some of the things that he releases. But I do sometimes have that, Jim Carrey, you always think, bah! And you don't, it's like, like that's like who he is, or how we know him to be. But then it really provides like how I feel. Like, we're Geminis. We have that, that dual counterpart balance type of thing, where some people see me as the spaz and the whoa, whatever, but then they don't know that there's a massive intellect and a seriousness behind that, which you get to see on a frequent level.
Yeah, I think when I listen back to me speak, it's like I kind of go, okay, yeah, it's like I have the pieces, but sometimes the word choices are very backwoods. They're not very eloquent sometimes, I feel like, but at the same time, if my written word is much more
your written word's very powerful.
It's much more powerful.
It's very potent.
It's kind of like I would much rather be writing than speaking. But for people that can do both, I think that's phenomenal. And just kind of going back to Jim Carrey before we went even into Terrence's clip, like I love seeing actors step up and really take a role into not just personal growth and development, but really like spiritual balance. I love that. And there's been so many, not just these two, but there have been so many recently that step into that. But then there's also this weird distortion that sometimes happens with the Hollywood crowd that sometimes I go, okay, it's like I'm waiting for the weird distortion, but I didn't hear it come on either of them. And
I still have yet to hear it come from either one of them in their delivery. Yeah.
And I was familiar with some of the stuff that Terrence has talked about when he was talking about not just DNA, but he was talking about the periodic table.
Yes.
and colors and something else. I don't even remember.
He was like keys of sound.
Keys.
Yeah. So it was like
completely different. And it was fascinating to me because in my mind, and I don't know, I don't have enough knowledge, or I wouldn't even have the pieces of money to even start to do anything about what it is that my mind creates here. But I really and truly believe that we can heal the body through frequency, and not just through frequency, but, sound and light therapy, so that, literally you could send your kids to a room to do their homework under certain light and frequency and heal them of whatever was there, or
have them be more productive.
That we have, scanners like our phones or whatever, where it's just like me. And I get it. Like some of that for me was formed from watching Star Trek as a kid, but
what is it?
But
Nanu.
It's not even that. It was the tricorders and the things that I'm like, our cell phones are probably based on some of that Star Trek technology that they had, back in the 70s, when we had flip phones, because they had their like tricorder things back then. But I would say that there's such a capacity for us to start healing in ways that don't require drugs that are harmful to the body. Or that they're suppressing something instead of actually healing it.
And that kind of goes into a little bit of conversation, because, there's 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 different access that people have based off of their upbringing, their surroundings, and even their financial circumstances, right? So it's like you could go into it, one of the Mac Daddy of healing retreats, and sound healing and some the Reiki and some of these other techniques had already been brought into those environments, but then it was like, okay, here it's only these secluded, wealthy, type retreat type of had access to it, even though it's been around for years, and it starts to go down the pipeline so that it becomes more readily accessible. And that's where I feel like internet has done us a service, like technology has done us a service, because it's spread it out so that more people have access to the knowledge, have access to the research, etc. But when it comes to, like, you're talking about sound healing frequencies doing the healing, I also agree with that, especially when it comes to movement and flow, right? Positions of the body, mindset, breath pattern, all of that also incorporates and enhances that experience. And when if you were to grab your phone right now and Google, we got to stop saying Google, because now AI is going to be taking over, and eventually we're going to be looking everything up via AI, because that's why Google always has the generated AI box. And then, but when we have that, what usually if you put in somatic exercise, like a somatic exercise, you get generic information, and they're not connected. It does not create flow. Even if you go onto a YouTube, you might have a couple people in the field that have had the urge to create videos to do some of those sequences. But when I've looked into it, it's like there's things that are missing that haven't been connected yet. And that has to do with, depending on where that education is and that range of education. And then that, the practitioners putting it into their own experience, which is why you've pushed me over the couple of years to start dabbling within that. And then it was weird because, you did your annoying, like, hey, I need you to look into this. Oh, by the way, I need you to look into this too. And you do this and it annoys me, but at the same time, I know you're right and you're onto something. And then eventually I flip and follow. And it's not a resistance. It's usually just a time, like when I'm ready to go in. And then when I go in, my brain naturally does it. And that's what kind of reminded me of the Jim Carrey clip, because when he's talking about someone pouring their energy into baking something to make the bread, there's a talent, there's an effort, there's an energy, that is part of their purpose and part of their ability of their acts of service to what we provide here in this physical experience. And, you have a really good way of pointing out, hey, you would actually be really great in this field if you kind of looked into it. And you've done that to me a couple of times. And then all of a sudden my brain could connect dots and flow in formations that needed to occur effortlessly. And I didn't even know why. I just was like, oh, nope, that's not supposed to be together. You're supposed to go here, then here, then here, and then here. And then it all became, it's like I already knew it before I even had read, certain things about it. Or I would start reading particular books behind it, get the baseline formation of it. But then my brain took everything else that I had and was like, actually, they didn't address this portion. They didn't address A, F, and H. And those are huge components to solidify the experience. So it was really interesting to kind of see that. But it really comes down to me is that we have to have these open conversations and not think we have all the answers ourselves, or allow, our pushy friends to, encourage us to go in different, you pushy friend. Like,
am I a pushy friend?
Not really. No, I wouldn't put you in that category. You're too smiley. Like, you're too smiley and moon-shaped eyes to be a pushy friend.
I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. That's right up your alley. You should look at it.
Yeah, I don't want to. You take it.
It's one of those things where I do that often. Like, I am very clear that a lot of the population, and I was actually looking to see if I could come up with the actual number.
The number of what?
What I'm talking about. Hang on. Head center. I know you guys hate it when I do this, when I'm trying to talk at the same time. but the number of
Let's
people
take a census poll. Everybody that's listening right now, comment below. Does it bother you when she does
does it
this?
bother you when I'm like, wait, I have to look it up. So
Honestly, I
approximately-
just say, I think in my head, old lady. That's
yeah, I totally right.
and I'm
It's like
getting
I have-
there, so I
I have
can't say
crammed
anything.
too much crap in my brain over the years, and there is just no more space. But I do know how to look it up, and thank God we have like AI and internet and Google and all of those things. Because if I had to go look it up in an encyclopedia like I did as a kid, because Lord knows I'm that old, it would just never happen. So what I was trying to say is that in human design, about 70% of the population has an open head center, and what that means is that we feel pressure to answer questions. Yes, me too. We
Yeah.
feel it's like we hear questions and we feel pressure to answer questions that are probably not ours to answer. And so, there are a few people that actually have that head center defined and they can stay very, very focused. But the rest of us, 70% of the population, are kind of like, oh, squirrel over here. I should answer that. I really feel pressure to do that. And I've just come to the conclusion over the years of like, yeah, I just don't have the capacity. So what is this one? I really need someone who does that. Who could do that? You know what? Abby's a really good fit. Abby should check out somatic healing. And so it becomes much easier for me to disseminate the massive resources that hit my brain into the people around me and be like, hey, by the way, you might want to check this out.
And then it detours me in a totally different category. And then I have more downloads. And then I'm like, fuck, I thought I was done creating all this stuff. I muted myself.
You muted yourself, and I was like,
I didn't even touch anything. It just like I didn't even touch the mic. I didn't even touch the handle. And then all of a sudden it tapped out. And I was like, and maybe it's censoring my F-bombs. No, absolutely. That would be a bad idea.
you know what? It's been a very interesting day. This is my second podcast today. And in the first one, we got to a first point. It was just to a certain point, and it was just kind of like the universe went, done.
Yep.
It's like, we have had enough of you for today. Turn off.
100%. Well, it's funny because you bring up head centers, and what I find really fascinating is both the boys are they've got their Anasha and their crown, like their head centers are completely ding 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 ding, no problem. I believe Leo also has her head center connected as well, but she's really good at interpreting me to the boys per se type of thing. Like, so she's really good at being able to communicate with them, and then like being able to be like, okay, but I get a lot, and I have to say a lot of assumptions that I don't know things, or like I'm not following. Like there's a lot of that just because I don't go to the same place they do in the process. Because I will be like, da, 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 or I already took it, understood it, and then I'm like, okay, next subject. And then they're like still hyper fixated on it. And I'm like, no, we already talked about this. We're like, it's done. Like the answer was yes. Do we need to continue with this more? And then for some reason that comes off as if I'm aloof or not, like, so funny story. So Leo goes to a game yesterday. So this Texas Rangers in Los Angeles, right? And so le boyfriend got the tickets. And so next thing you know, they're venturing off into, the Texas Rangers game, and they go 2 hours early to get like the freebies and to walk around the whole stadium and do all the things. And I'm like, you walked around the whole stadium? She's like, yeah, actually kind of fun. I like exploring. And I'm like, okay, whatever, you and your dad. Same pair. So like next thing you know, she's telling us this story about how, certain players, had come out onto the field, and then like her boyfriend's like super excited about certain people. And then she kind of was, then they turn and he's like, oh, he said hi to a kid. And she's like, no, he did that for you. Like, so like, I'm totally proud of my daughter for, embracing the energy that me and my husband have, brainwashed her into, and then she gives it to him, and then he can take it. So he fits in well. So it's really cute. So they go about, talking about, and like talking about the game with the Texas Rangers, Los Angeles. Next thing you know, there's a conversation. Like I was under the assumption that the family was like Texas Rangers fans, but I guess I misinterpreted that from a previous story. Fine, no problem, move forward. And then next thing you know, Leo started talking about how actually his family's more Cowboys family oriented, but he is, the one person they will go to the game and he's like an Eagles fan. But she didn't say that. She said like Phillies. She said he's a really big Phillies fan because the baseball team is the Phillies, right? And so she's talking about how he's a really big Phillies fan. And then she mentioned how Cowboys and Phillies are a big rival. And I was like, I know that baseball teams and football teams have different team names, right? Like, but even though they're from the same city. And so I wasn't sure where she was going like that, because I was like, wait a second, what's the name of the Philadelphia team? And then Rudy's like, Phillies, Philadelphia. And I just looked at him like, are you kidding me? And he's just like, yeah, Phillies, just Philadelphia. It's short for Philadelphia. And I was like, I swear, I'm about to smack the shit out of you. I love you, but you were about to get hit upside the head, like type of thing. And the next thing you know, I said, she continues with her story. And then I'm sitting here thinking, wait, I know this. I've seen this in a movie before where like the main game had to do with the Cowboys and whatever team it was. And then finally I said, what is the name of the football team of Philadelphia that is football, not the baseball team, the Phillies? Yay! See, you get it. And so as soon as she said the Eagles, I knew exactly what movie it was. And then I told Rudy, like, no, it's this actor played this portion and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, well, I didn't know they were rivals. It's like, well, in the movie, it was a big freaking deal. Like, so I had memory of it. And I was like, but no head, honey, Philadelphia. Like,
Phillies.
Yeah, and I'm like, obviously Phillies comes from Philadelphia. I'm not that like aloof. But that is a perfect example about how their head centers are right there, where mine's like, woo, like in 60 different directions and trying to make sense. But I can't always get it like all the way through, where they can be very methodic and orchestrated.
Yeah, I get that. Trust
Tis
me.
the world I live in. Yay!
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I think there's a lot more to it than just that, but that definitely plays a part. It's kind of like you and I are getting information from 1,000 different places at once, and then sorting through it to come out with one thing that's relevant.
And then with my tangent brain, that doesn't help at all, because I speak squirrel. I'm not a squirrel, but I do speak it. But then I also am a little bit crazy. So I understand the eccentricness to which all of this is. And there's not really good definitions. Like, I have to give my family credit because, I'm a lot. I'm just a lot. And then on top of it, I'm very energetic. And then I need my hermit time. And then, yeah, so it's a thing, but it's a thing. But you just have your dog that scratches at you from the bottom and is like, Mom, it's time for a walk, or, oh, I need attention, or get out of your head and come play with me. And like, that's an interesting life.
And she definitely does that. And I'm like, stop, wait, 5 more minutes.
I just don't like it when she does it to my hair. But at any rate, I like the fact that, it's interesting because you were talking about at the very beginning of this about seeing people in a different light. And I think right now that is kind of what we're going to be seeing and have been seeing for a while is the, we've been talking about the transits and where we have been and what's shifting and what we're getting rid of. And the fact of the matter is people are changing, and they're finding who they are, what they're no longer willing to tolerate, what foundations that really shape them to who they are, who they were, and where they want to be. And it's really important because it's almost like, I almost say, like, don't get your heart fixated on thinking you know it all right now, because shit's going to be changing. and continuously changing. And we're going to see people that we've known for years, admired for years, either, through careers, friendships, family members, or even in our actors, that we start seeing different versions of them that we haven't necessarily been able to see, or I should say they didn't feel comfortable expressing. And so that is going to become very much more hardcore and part of what we're facing going forward. And I don't want to say that people aren't ready, but I feel like a lot of people are absolutely needing to change. But I also feel that some people are, it's hard. Change can be difficult, especially when you got attached to a version of who certain people were. And then when they change on you, you're like, what the hell? What happened?
Yeah. Speaking of changing the light on people. Woo.
Tinkerbell's in town. Hide.
Right.
Run from Tinker.
No, I understand what you're saying. And at the same time, here's how I see it. It's like what's falling away isn't that people have changed. It's that who they've always been is actually coming to the surface and the masks are falling away. And so, just like we were talking about Jim Carrey early on, is like we have this perception because of the roles that he's played that he is a certain way, and that's not who the man actually is. That's not who he's ever been.
No, we only know a small percentage of him.
Right. And two, it's like they were in movies. They weren't even him in the first place. Right. They were just roles that he played. And that really goes back into what I've been talking about when it comes to recognizing the roles that you play and letting the role not define you. Because it's like you have the role of being a mother. You have the role as someone who works in health and fitness. You have the role of your job title, but that's not who you are. Who you are is underneath that. Who you are is when you stand in your truth and in your own authenticity and authority.
Which is huge. I need you to go into authenticity and authority, because a lot of people seem to misconstrue the definition of authority and mix it up with control sequences, thinking that authority is power and power is systems of control. And that is not how that works.
It's a distortion.
Can you clean that up for us, please?
Yeah. It's like I need my notes. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you don't. I've heard you say this shit all the time. You don't need any fucking notes.
I need my notes.
Yeah.
You put me on the spot. Hold on. No, I'm kidding.
Liar. Like, don't even.
So the root of words like author, authenticity, authority, they all come from you being the source or the generation of something. So if you are the author, it's something that you have written. If you are if you're being authentic, it comes from your soul space. If you are standing in your authority, it's like your soul, your being self is shining through. Okay. What most people miss, I think, is that we have been programmed, conditioned to believe that authority is outside of us. That when we were children, we were told that our parents were the authority, and then we were told that our teachers were the authority, and then we were told that our professors were the authority, or the military was authority, and that there's always some hierarchy that someone else outside of you is authority. And even in the church, God was authority, right? But when we really get back to reclaiming our authority, and I do have a class on that, by the way,
NSYNC and Link.
Yes, I know. We need to put that link in here somewhere.
We're not telling. We're just talking.
Back into your own authority, and really start to express yourself authentically, then you become the author of your own life. Did you like all those authors? The authors?
The other.
Yeah. And then there's the other AUTs that they don't have the H on them, which is autonomy. Right. And that actually means more of it's like when we think of something that automatically happens, it's automatically who you are. And then there is this balance between really having that autonomy of really distinctly being yourself and being authentic in that. And when those two come together to where you know yourself as your own individual and you can speak from this place of authenticity, then you become the authority in your space.
That just made me go "Ugh." like I just released a lot, and I was trying not to belch onto the mic.
I
When I was like,
it's
"Ugh," you just released that
breathing
for me.
in and bringing it out from here. I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I have come to the conclusion, because I have been told numerous times lately, like, that my stuff is really deep.
Mhm.
For me, it's everyday conversation.
Right.
Right. And so for me, it doesn't seem deep. It's like, this is the stuff I talk about every single day. But for other people who haven't been in the space, they haven't been in my space, or they don't know me, they're just like, whoa, you're deep. That's
Well,
deep.
but it's interesting because I've always been the person that when I'm even in a public setting, I can grab the primary nugget, or I add to, like, okay, we hit these points. Oh, we're missing these 3. Let's bring them in. And and it's that conversation wheel, and it's not about us, and it's not about us. It's about bringing the conversation forward so that people are in a state of awareness or awakening to their own future embodiment or their own evolution of soul purpose and being able to live by it. And I think that's why we've always been a really good partnered coupling in our weird deranged friendship, to which we have like that's what it is. It's deranged. I'm just kidding. But it is that there's a way that you accelerate to another level where I will have like kind of that, let's connect the dots to create the safe space to exist. You also create a safe space to exist, but it's a little bit, we do a very different role with it. And that's where I always go back to that one vision that I had, after you put me on the acupuncture table and was like, yeah, hey, so I've always wanted to do retreats, and I've always been looking for a partner because I didn't want to do them by myself. And I'm like, oh, who's that partner? Like, you are, bye. Like, and then you just left me on the table, and I was like silent for 3 days. And you're like, and then you called Rudy, you're like, I think I broke her. Like, so like it turned into a thing. But it was really important because in that delivery, all of a sudden I had that vision come through about how, like, here you're in the village of managing the awakened, the aware, the embodiment people. And then here, like, you meet me on the bridge, and then I'm taking people from the 3rd dimension onto that next level of awakening. Like I've lit the fire. I've rid this body of a lot of the concepts, and then, oh, look, you're ready for the next level of education and corruption. Ha ha ha. And then you kind of like, well, except we do it with giggles and moon-shaped eyes, like, or your moon-shaped eyes. I don't. I'm like a psycho with my big old,
I have squinty eyes.
Yeah, I don't think you should do that. That's not a good look for you. Like, so,
I can't even get them to open.
Let's not do that. But it does go back to, like when the AAAs go out into the world, people see a very authentically vibrant, supportive, feminine relationship dynamic that's not really seen everywhere else, because there's usually some like insecurities or infightings. Like when you and I get butthurt about something about each other, we go, oh, well, what is that pulling up for you inward? And then we help coach each other through what's coming up, rather than projecting out that, like, you made me feel this way when you said X. Like we don't do that. We do that, oh God, what hurt inner child did that stir for me? And oh crap, like, oh, that's a me problem. Like, there's been times where even Alicia has said something And it was just because like, and we needed you to translate because, you know, she's so earth and I'm so not earth. And like, and I'm so fire. And she's like, I hate like the air, like, you know, air is her thing. Like, and I love watching her in air. I love watching her in air. Like, it's so fun. Like if you guys don't know, our earthbound grounded friend that is totally like, you know, our root anchor, and she hates her from unexpectedness and to go free and whatever. And I love watching when she hits that zone because it's so fun. And there's so many fun and I just like learning opportunities. I love growth. And Earth, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. And she's like, it's okay, friend, you can come here. And I'm like, but I don't want to live there. Like so it's one of those dynamics where a lot of people don't have that because they're still trying to seek that full embodiment themselves, but they don't realize that sometimes you need the people surrounding you to help you get there, right? Because if not, we're doing it alone. We're not seeing things as clearly. We can get very sucked into our own victimization or our own victimhood mentality and not necessarily expanding ourselves from it. I know like you helped me a ton this summer because there was a lot of projection and mirror reflection and different things that were going on within my own family dynamics. It was like I was not being represented as who I was. And I was like, I'm not understanding, like, that's not even who I am. Why is this even going on? You know, like there was a lot of lessons that needed to be learned. And that goes back to what we're facing right now. We're facing, you know, I say change because on the surface layer, that's how people are going to interpret it. Oh, that person's changed. No, they're just being more authentically them. They're being more revealing. They're being more comfortable in their own skin to be able to say the things or be the things that they've always felt or needed to be, but they didn't have the courage or they had some of the complexities or the programming that needed to be unraveled in order for them to step into what's next for them. And so there's going to be some major shifts. And I think we've already seen a lot of them, but there's still more to come. And it's all part of that healing, love, growth, expansion to where we're going to go. But all of this is serious, and that's not fun for our title. So we need to have a fun title. Like goats and gorillas. I don't know. Like no?
All that came to mind was like Grandpa's goats and gorillas.
Grandpa's goats and gorillas?
I don't know why.
Why? How can we factor grandpas in? Okay, hold on a second. My husband's almost, my husband acts like a grandpa. We can add a clip.
Please, before you go there, going back to, so yes, we are in a transition state. We're in a definite transition state when it comes to human design. We're in a transition state when it comes to astrology. We're just, as a global population, in a transition state that will continue through next year. And just because we hit whatever that state is in 2027 doesn't mean bam, it's done, our world has changed. It means that we finally have the pieces in place where those shifts actually really start taking hold and taking place. So it's like people that are on the front wave of those changes, they're standing up and talking about it, which is what we're doing. It's like being on the front wave of it. We're talking about it. We're bringing it to light. We're showing you our transformation and transmutation, or whatever the hell you want to call it. You know, we're showing up as that in the messiness of it. Right. And that's not going to stop happening for a while. Right.
That's right.
So, I mean, maybe by 2030, some of the stuff will have settled, maybe. Yeah. But because of AI coming online, because of all of the stuff that is shifting and changing and rearranging, and because there's going to be government impacted and other things impacted, because of all of the shifting and changing, it's going to seem really turbulent. But that doesn't have to be scary.
Right.
It's like we can almost celebrate that, like, oh, wow. You know, it's like we get to be witness to evolution and process.
Right.
So,
well, and anyway, we chose to be down here during this time regardless, even though we like it or not. it's like, you kind of sit there and you're like, hey, who wants a ticket to the big show? And everyone's like, me. And then we got here, we're like, fuck, can we return that ticket? No, damn it. Like,
I didn't realize that I was going to be in the show. I just wanted to watch it.
yeah, no. And then I was like, I'm sorry, but at 42, I don't like being an old biddy. And like some of the names that get called out for it's just no, like we need to get back to unity. We need to get back to compassion. We need to get back to integrity. And I'm not saying that it needs to, I don't want it to be in the old school forms that we used to. I want it to be in the way that we've evolved to acknowledge people's experiences, their emotional states, like some of the meaning to which it's created for them, but honoring the human as a whole, not the hierarchy bullshit that ends up transpiring, in that. And that's one thing that I've always tried to do, especially, we were, off stage, we were actually talking about like parental upbringing and things of that nature. And that's one of the things I've always tried to do with my children, is be able to give them a safe place to be able to communicate those emotions, interpret, how some of that has affected their way of thinking or their belief system, and have open dialogue. Hey, mom, when you said this is how I felt, or this is how I interpreted that. And then I'm like, wow, that's really interesting how you got there. How did that connect for you? And then they would explain how that came through, to which I said, wow, that's so fascinating. I'm not going to say that that's not true or that that's not how you feel. And I said, but would you like to know how it was from my viewpoint and why that was important lesson for me to make sure that you had? And then I would go into my backstory, my methodology, like
You're
methodologically thinking, like sure, that's a new word. We can do that. Like, let's add that to AI and see if that actually becomes a word in 5 years. So like I go through my methodology of the importance and my intention, and then what I'm wanting for them. And then once I invite them into understanding that structure, they start saying, okay, that makes sense. And then we get to work well. We can actually have a constructive conversation of, oh, I actually shut down when I hear you say it like this, but I can hear it clearly if it comes from this viewpoint. And then we actually work cohesively together. Now, a lot of the old school, that would give the child too much power and control, right? But the thing is that then they're standing in their authority. They're standing in their authenticity. They're standing in their light. And then I'm also saying, hey, these are my boundaries. This is my structure. Like, this is my job as a parent. And I said, but at the same time, this is how we work together. Kai, for the longest time, would struggle sometimes, he thinking he had to have all the answers, right? He's the baby. So he's watching everybody else having figured it out, and then, and so on and so forth. And I had to really emphasize, anytime he got flustered, anytime I could see him struggling, it's okay to ask for help or not know what you're supposed to be doing with this. Like, you can ask. Like, it is healthy to ask for help. It is healthy to not have all the answers. It is healthy to bring this to the table so that we can work on it together. Like, you do not have to take this burden on alone. And I think in a society that we've been raised in today, a lot of our generational upbringing has been thinking we have to get it all done. And then we're burdened, exhausted, overwhelmed. And then we have no capacity to take on more. And then you have people getting butthurt because you're not meeting their expectations. Because guess what? You don't have the fucking capacity. Like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings because you thought I would be able to do this. But then that's like, I don't have the capacity to do so. Like, I'm tapped out. I'm tapped out. And so it's funny because there was a clip, and I'm not going to play it because there are a lot of F-bombs and S-words in that one. More so than delightfully me. And like, when I get a clip that has too many, somebody's crossed the line. Like, so but there was a whole, I loved it. It was a male perspective that was going over, like never call the mother lazy and this is why. And it went through all the different things. And sure enough, within less than an hour, my son comes around. He says, "Can we do XYZ?" And I'm like, possibly. Let's play this by ear. And then he used the term lazy. I'll go, hold on. I have a clip for you. I can't show it to you yet. But I said, I might, if you cross that line, you might. I said, because that clip will scare you with all the F-bombs in it. But if you cross the line, I might just say, yes, 10-year-old, you deserve it.
You're going to hear all of it. You can't repeat it, but you can hear all of it. Here's what I find interesting is like, we think that all of that responsibility being put on us is our generation. But the reality is it comes from war times. World War I, World War II, like the women at home had to take on to everything. They took on everything for household, home, taking care of the kids.
Even the country and temporarily periods, etc.
I was going to say they were primarily the ones taking care of everything in country because their husbands were on a battlefield somewhere in Europe. And when those husbands came home, they had to go back to work and survive in jobs,
normalize, and
when they couldn't help but have post-traumatic stress. I mean, it's like there's no one that walks off of a battlefield without post-traumatic stress. You can't function in that kind of environment and not have some sort of trauma from it. It's just not possible. And so we created this whole really weird survival mechanism in the 50s of women walking on eggshells and making sure that the kids were super clean and everybody was quiet and everything was taken care of, so that when dad came home from work, when dad came home from work and was already stressed out and tired from a full day of work, that dinner was served and everybody was quiet and happy and peaceful. And it created this really weird environment that we were all raised from, maybe not in because we weren't born yet, but then we were born into the offspring and the culture after that and the fallout of it. And none of that has completely gone away yet.
No.
And we're still living in these roles of women do this and men do that, when before those types of cultures, everybody took care of the farm. Everybody raised the crops. Everybody did everything. They had their own roles, but it's like everybody cooperated in a way that was much different than what we think of now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got this hyper-vigilant group of people that are all trying to do everything all the time and work and take care of home and do all of the stuff and keep ourselves to some level of perfectionism and all of this. It just doesn't work.
No. And the funny thing is that when it was, farm to table, and it was, like you created your own system, like every farm had a different flow because every farm had a different produce, at a different responsibility, a different timing, everyone made it for what they needed to be. Right. And so it's interesting because, that when you're parent and you send your kid out to go play with another, you're like, well, that's how their family works, but our family functions this way. That's how I've always explained the difference between, it's like, oh, well, Joey is allowed to do this. And it's like, well, good for Joey, but that has nothing to do with our family. Like, I have no idea why, like, you're not Joey, or your name would be that. Like, I don't know why he's Joey. But it just seemed to work. But I'd always do that kind of explanation of like, okay, well, we will honor and respect Joey's families and their way of doing things, but at the same time, our house functions this way. So it is like, and even if there's another family that has a different functioning, that might be, oh, I love that idea. We could adapt that into our system. There's never, I don't know why we got so confined to rules or confined to this is how it always is. And it's like, no, actually we should be growing and shaping each other and making like our lives more natural and more creating a world of that tranquility that we're always trying to seek for. So I think that's a fascinating thing. Now I do have a clip that has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about today. I just thought it was funny. And I'm kind of actually curious because at some point, I would love it. Like when we have like multiple employees underneath us and like we've created our big conglomerates of what we like, the world to which we're trying to create. I think this would be hilarious. And I think it would be even funnier because if my husband ends up helping me at some point in time in the future with things, I think it would be hilarious. I kind of want to do this with the kids and see what answers would transpire. But are you ready? It's so cute. I love this one.
To bail you out of jail.
Oh, damn.
Who's more likely to talk your ear off for an hour?
Oh, yeah.
Who's more likely to be late to their own team meeting?
Come on, guys. I'm not even gonna look.
Who drops more F-bombs?
I gotta see this one.
Who's more competitive?
I don't know.
Oh.
Damn it. That's tough.
Who's more likely to email you at 2 a.m?
It should be easy. I shouldn't get one. Who stood on my side?
Who's more likely to yell at you in the morning and then take you out for lunch in the afternoon? Who's fired more people? Oh shit. Who's more of a numbers guy?
Damn. That may be the worst quote.
Most likely to bail you out of.
Oh, that's funny.
I know.
There's a few of them that I'm like,
It's like the F-bombs. Like I will be reactive. Like I have something. Oh my God, I gotta do this stuff. I'm not yelling at the person, but I'm yelling in general. And then I'll be like, okay, what do you want for lunch? Like, let's go get sushi. Like it's fine. And then the emails at 2:00 in the morning. You know that's Rudy.
oh, okay. I was like, that's over there because I'm asleep.
Yeah. And you're on do not disturb. And I just woke up naturally with no alarm. What did you need? Like,
See, do not wake me up or you'll get the yelled at and then maybe we'll have lunch.
I feel like that should be the title.
But I totally have to put this on the podcast because otherwise it would not be, it would just be missed. And it's like when we have girls weekend and I don't know, whatever undisclosed location, it's like Abby is the person that we, Alicia and I kind of wake up and start stirring. And then Abby pops out of bed like a Jack in the Box and just starts yabbering. And we're both like, coffee.
Yeah, that's probably why you don't wake me up when you guys get up at 6. You probably tiptoe past to be like, don't wake her up. We are not ready for the jackrabbits.
No, Jack in the Box.
Embrace that experience.